Hey everyone, Erin Bassett here. And I've been getting some questions about how to use your ScanNCut machine to create score lines for cards and that sort of thing. So today that's what I'm going to show you, a variety of different ways that you can use that score mark to make a card base. And then we'll whip up this cute little Valentine's card to go with it. So let's get started with this card. I'm using a standard mat. I'm just going to put that aside. For the base of our card, I'm going to show you how to do it with your ScanNCut and without. So back before my ScanNCut days, I would just take my 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and put it into my cutter, and at 5.5 I would cut it. Okay, so now I have basically two bases of my card. So you could score this or just fold this. Okay, so as easy as that is, right? So now you have not only one, but obviously two. Okay. But you can also use your ScanNCut machine. If you have trouble folding this, or maybe you wanted to whip up a whole bunch of these so your kids could do Valentines or something like that. And, we all know kids, bless their hearts, they are not always the best folders, right? So sometimes having that scored is super handy. So I'm going to show you how you can use your ScanNCut machine to do that. I also like to use a bone folder that has some tape on it and just use that to crease it. It gives it, a nice clean crease. So you can see this one before, not very creased. Now it definitely is, right? Okay, so we have two bases. Let's look at how to create one with a ScanNCut. Okay, so this is the first method that you can use to create a card base, and this is great if you're using a larger paper size, maybe 12 by 12 inches, and you want to cut out multiple card bases. Okay, so we're looking at our screen here, and first let's go into patterns, and these are all different categories of files that you'll find already preloaded into your machine, and I'm using the ScanNCut DX SDX 85M. Okay, so I'm going to go into the basic shapes right here, and here is, all those basics. I found a rectangle right there. Now we want it to be the size, right? 8.5. So we have 8.5 by 5.5. Okay, so with this, obviously we made our rectangle expand to the 8.5. but the height also changed with that. So to unlock those so you can move them independently, you're going to click that button right there, and that will allow you to make this 5.5. Oops, got a little carried away. Okay, so 8.5 by 5.5. Okay, so now we have the correct rectangle like this, but we also need that piece right there. So we're going to click set, and that places it onto our mat. Now we're going to click add, and we're going to add a pattern, and we're going to go into these borders right here. So if you scroll down, you'll be able to find this dashed line or score line. So if you choose that, our width, we want it to be this width, right? 5.5. Okay, and then we'll click set, and it put it right here. Okay. Now we just need to place our score line right in the middle of there. And this may seem like a lot of work when cutting it would do, but if you have this set up and you save this file, obviously it's not very hard to just pop it on there and tell it to cut and have it score. So setting up the first time, it might be longer, but after that it makes it much quicker. Okay, so let's go ahead and arrange these how we want to. So we're going to click on edit, and you can see as soon as I click that, that dash line, that score line, lit up red. It is selected on there. In fact, if we hit that little magnifying glass, we can even take a closer look at it. Okay, so I'm going to click OK to get out of the magnifying for right now and go to Object Edit. This is where we can manipulate that score line to be however we want. Okay, so to start off with, I want to rotate it. So we're going to click on this button right here, which will rotate it 90 degrees, 10 degrees, or 1 degree, and it gives you which direction you want. Okay, so if we hit 90 degrees, it gets it exactly how we want. We can click OK and click OK again. And now we're going to select both objects on our screen, the rectangle and the score line. Okay, so to do that, we're going to click these 3 red boxes, that button right there. And we're going to select everything. So we're going to use this option instead of, cropping it down to be what objects we want selected. And then click OK. And now we're going to click Object Edit. And it only gives us a few options, but this is the one that we need right here. It looks like 2 little rectangles and then kind of a score line or just a regular line. So that is our alignment button. So here's all the ways that we can align those 2 pieces. We want it to be in the middle and in the middle, right? So there we go. They're all lined up, easy peasy. Okay, okay. Okay. Now, like I was saying, once you have this saved, you have it. So you don't have to reset this up. So it's important now to go ahead and save it. And you can save it to wherever you want, to your machine, which is handy because you're always going to be at your machine, to your computer using your wireless connection, or to USB, and you have your USB connection over on the side of your machine. So you can plug it in right there. Okay, so for now, I'll just save it to my machine and then hit OK. Okay, so we can go ahead and cut out this card base because we're going to be using different colors of paper for different things. You can also use those same techniques to be able to create a score line right down the middle of your 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. But if you wanted to make that scoring part easier and you're using 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, we can go ahead and create that paper on here. So we're going to click on patterns, go into those basic shapes, pick a rectangle, and we're going to unlink the dimensions, the height and the width, by clicking that button. So when it turns blue, it's unlocked. And then you're going to make this 8.5 by 11. So height, 11 inches, and width 8.5. And so we make that rectangle not because we need this cut perfectly, because it already is, but because we want that score mark on here. Okay, so remember, we need it to be right down the middle of that page. Okay. So we got our rectangle for our piece of paper. We're going to click set to put it onto our mat. So right now our mat on our screen and our mat right here look just about identical. Okay. So next we're going to go ahead and click add and go into patterns and then pick the border option right here. And you're going to scroll down till you see this little dashed line. That's your score line. Okay, and again, we want it to be the whole length of the paper, so we're going to make it 11 inches wide. Technically long, but it'll be under the width. That's the only one that you're able to change. And click set. And now it's at the bottom of our screen, so we need to rotate it. So we're going to click on edit, and it already selected that line, that's why it's red. And we're going to click on object edit, and then this rotate button up at the top right hand corner, and that'll allow you to rotate it 90 degrees, 10 degrees, or 1 degree. So I'm going to pick 90. And now we have it going the right direction, so we're going to click OK and OK. And now we need to select both of those, the rectangle and the dashed line, the score line. We're going to click this icon that has the 3 red squares in it, and then select everything that's on the mat. So both objects, click OK. And now we need to line those up. So we're going to go into Object Edit, and right above the OK button is this little button that has the 2 rectangles and a line. That is the alignment button. So go ahead and click that. And then you want to click on both of these 2 buttons. So one aligns one way and one aligns the other way. So now we have that exactly where we want to. So we're going to click OK. Click on my mat just to unselect that. I'm going to select just the rectangle shape. Click OK. Click Delete and click OK. So now I know that my dashed line is in the right spot. I can click OK. I can even save this to my machine so I don't have to go through this again. So it's always a good idea to save it to your machine or your computer, or even onto USB. And then you can go ahead and click OK so that we're ready to finally cut this out. We're going to select Cut and then load our mat into our machine. We're going to butt our mat up against those 2 pieces right there all the way in, and then hit the mat button. Okay, make sure your paper is on there well. We're going to take a look at our settings just to make sure. Our pressure, I must have been cutting in something different last. So I'm going to change mine back to auto. I'm going to click on that little wrench and make it back to auto. Okay. So my pressure is auto, speed is 5, which is middle of the road, and my half cut's off. You can make your speed faster or slower, but it looks like everything's good, so we can hit start. Okay, so it's finished cutting. I can click OK, and I can just pop this right off my mat. So I don't know if you can see depending on the lighting, but I have a score mark all the way down my page. So I'm going to unload my mat, and now I can just cut my page in half. Now, obviously, with our first option, it would have, how am I cutting this? I don't know if I can talk and cut at the same time. With our first option, it would have cut out our rectangle for us. But this gives you now 3 different ways in order to make card bases, which is a lot more thought going into it than you probably ever thought before. Okay, now that you have your choice of card bases, it's time to embellish those cards. Okay, so now that we have our card base, let's go ahead and do our dogs to put on there, and we'll continue on. Okay, so I'm going to click my home button, and that's going to say okay to delete all patterns. Now, when it says that, it's not going to delete the patterns that you've already saved on your machine. Those will be saved. It's just deleting what's on the screen. So we're going to click OK, and now we have a nice fresh start. So to get those dogs, we're going to go into patterns, and this time we're going to go into the one that has the Eiffel Tower and the tree. This is all of our die cut shapes. And we're going to click on the category that has the animals, the dolphin and the dinosaur. And then there is our cute little dog. Okay. Now, right now, it is a little bit too big. So we're going to shrink that down. Okay, so we shrunk that down to 2.5 inches wide. And your height automatically adjusts for you. You're going to click OK. Now, whenever you're doing one of these die cut pieces that have a lot of different colored shapes to it, it breaks it all up for you. So first we're going to cut out the dog's body, that's A, and we're going to click OK. And we still have the same size, 2.5 inches wide. Do we want 1 or 2? Well, it all depends on what color you are making your dogs, if they're going to be the same color or different colors. So you can decide that. I'm going to do 2 different colored ones, but I can also cut those out at the same time, and I'll show you how to do that on your mat. Okay, so I changed my number to 2. I'm going to click set. Okay, so there is the 2 dogs. I'm going to keep one over here, and I'm going to move my other to the right hand side of the mat. Okay, so now when we set up our mat, we can put one color here and one color here. So each of these quadrants is 6 inches, so that's what size paper we need. Obviously it could be smaller if you want it to be, because these dogs are not going to be this wide. Okay, but for the sake of illustration, I will show you. Okay, so get those on there. I'm going to use my roller just to make sure they're on really well. Okay, that's loaded our machine. And same process as before. Okay, so we're ready to cut it out. We can click OK and select cut. And our settings are all good, so we can hit start. Okay, and then it says select next part or finished. So you can decide. Now, the first thing I have to think of is what color ear are my puppies gonna have? Maybe a dark gray for this, maybe a dark gray for both of them. Yeah, let's do dark gray for both of them. So I am going to take this off. Now, I should mention this too. We're having our dogs face each other, and I'm using cardstock that is the same color all the way through. But if for some reason you are using cardstock that is only colored on one side, or maybe you're using a pattern paper that's only colored on one side, you want to make sure that your little puppies are facing each other. So you'll need to flip one of them around. Okay, but we got our cute little dogs here. I'm gonna set them up here. And now let's cut out some ears. So let me get some dark gray paper. Okay, so the dark gray that I have is a 12 by 12. So that is completely fine. And it has a little bit of texture to it, so it'll look good. So now for the ear part, we want to select that next. Okay, and we'll click the little ear, which is actually the C piece. So I'm kind of going out of order, but that's okay. So we'll click OK. Now remember, we're having our dogs face different directions. So we do want to, and I'm going to set it on my mat right there. So even though the shapes look very similar, I am going to flip it just in case and to show you how to do that. Okay, so you can see just one ear is selected, and now I'm going to click Object Edit, and then we're going to click this one right here, and that flips it for you. Okay, so after you have that set, you can click OK and OK, OK, all the way until you get to the screen where you can select cut. And we already know we are good to go, so we can hit start. Yeah, so those shapes are the same no matter what direction you have them. So you don't have to worry about flipping them around for this project. do puppy dog ears, and now we need collars. So we're gonna select the next part and choose B for those collars. See how it lit up in our picture? Click OK. And again, we're gonna need 2. And just to be safe, we're gonna flip one of them. So you're gonna do the same thing, edit, object edit, and then make sure only one's selected, and click that to flip it. Click OK, 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 and select cut. And now you just need to decide what color you want to do. In fact, I'm going to go back a screen and move one of mine over to the other side of my mat so that I can do 2 different colors. Okay, so cut down that. And I'll have red in this corner. So again, make sure those are really on there. My mat is losing its stick. It is a well-used mat. Okay, so hopefully that will stay on there. We're gonna click OK and select cut and start. So this one wiggled around a little bit, barely cut. So that will happen as your mat wears out. And to clean your mat, you can use an alcohol-free baby wipe to just lightly rub it all over, get all this fuzzy stuff off, all the lint from yourself and your cardstock that is there. And that'll clean it up and give it a little bit more stick. Okay, let me take this one off. And so I'm going to click finish because that's going to keep it on the screen. And then I can go back and select just this one. If I can find I can select just this one and delete it by clicking edit and then delete. Okay, now I just have my other one that we're ready to cut out. Okay, again, gonna make sure it's on there well. Hopefully it won't move this time, and hit start. Perfect. I'm gonna take this off, take off my collar. Now the only other thing we have to do is our little heart. So we are all finished. So we can click finish. We can click that home button again to get back to the home screen. Okay, so now for our heart, go ahead and put whatever color paper you're using for that onto your mat. And then we're going to click on patterns, and again those basic shapes. Scroll down to where the heart is, and you have your choice of a few different hearts. There's just a plain old heart, a scalloped heart, and a really scalloped heart. Okay, so I'm just going to click the plain old one, and I'm going to reduce the size to be about 1.8. I think I'll do it like that. And there is my heart. Again, making sure my paper is on there really well. And then click OK, select cut, and start. take that out, and voila, there's your heart to go above those pups. So next we just need to put it all together. And now that we have everything cut out, we can go ahead and assemble our cards. Okay, so I'm going to start by taking a piece of washi tape and putting it at the base of my card. And I'm going to leave a little gap at the bottom. So the great thing with washi tape is it's very forgiving, right? So once you get it on there, you can just rip the ends or cut them if you'd like. And now we're ready for our dogs. Use whatever adhesive you prefer. I'm going to use a dry adhesive for mine. I'm going to do all these big pieces first. Okay, so now that the dogs are down and the heart's down, you can go ahead and put the ears and their collars on. Super cute. Okay, so there's the basis of your card. You can use whatever other embellishments you want, and you're finished. Now I did add a little extra embellishing. I took a love stamp and stamped it all over my heart. And then I added some little faux pearls for one of my dog's collars, and then put on some rhinestone eyes as well. For more ideas and inspiration, visit erinbassett.com. And for all things ScanNCut, visit ScanNCut.com.